Train the muscles, not the joints. So welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding. Bam! Today I'm going to talk to you about pre-contest prep. So Drew Garton, thanks man for making a comment and ask a question and everything. And thanks to you guys that are tuning into the live streams and the videos. And make sure, before I start anything right now, make sure you go down to the subscribe button, go right beside it, click that little bell icon and click receive notifications, because I noticed something to do with the algorithm right now with YouTube is kind of messing up. Some of you guys aren't getting the videos and stuff. So make sure you click that receive notifications, and that way you'll get the videos as soon as I upload, okay? Now that we got that out of the way, what I'm going to talk to you about is pre-contest prep. So Drew Garton asked me a question. He asked me, he said, Jason, what did you do the week leading up to a show? How did you prepare for a contest for getting on stage? A lot of times the last week has nothing to do with body fat loss. You're assuming that you're already in shape. You should be in shape at least 2 weeks before a show, just so you know. At least 2 weeks before a show, you should be in actual contest shape. And then from there, you're honing the whole water retention, carbohydrate loading type of stuff to make sure that your body is actually not retaining water needlessly and making you look a few percent fatter than you actually are, okay? So the first thing I used to do before a contest, it was really funny. I used to be able to eat rice, I used to be able to eat any type of meat, sushi, all this kind of stuff, and no problem. You know, day of the show would come, all I do was cut salt out for 24 hours, and I was already, you know, a little bit leaned down on stage, and as long as I was drinking a lot of water throughout the week, I just cut out drinking water the evening of the Friday, and I would cut out salt, and then the water would drain out, and I'd look fine on stage, okay? But of course, when you're bodybuilding, your body changes from time to time. You know, sometimes you're a different age, sometimes it goes through different sorts of challenges, sometimes it develops food sensitivities. And years later, I found that doing the same process for getting ready for stage just didn't work anymore. If I had rice, then immediately I would water over, immediately my body would react, and all of a sudden I go from looking like I was 4% body fat with veins in my abs to looking like I was 7% immediately, right after the meal. So what I had to do was actually develop a strategy. First, I had to understand what foods am I sensitive to, what foods is my body reacting to? You know, what food, right? What food is causing it to retain water? And then I would cut that out the week before the show, and I would change my food choices. So one of the things I would do is switch from chicken breast to turkey, because I noticed that turkey breast didn't cause the same water retention. Of course, that was a little bit more expensive because you couldn't get turkey breast in a box at that time. So I would be buying turkey breast, so I'd stick to that. Second of all, I knew starches made me retain water, but I needed starches in order to get some glycogen inside the muscles. But if I carbed up too close to the day that I wanted to look lean, it would make me look fat. If I carbed up too far out, I would look flat, you know? So it looked like I was actually fatter than I was because my muscles weren't filled out. So what I developed was a strategy based on this. So every week up until the contest, I would treat Saturday as if it was contest day. And what I would do is every week I would eat carbs. I would have high carb days and low carb days, of course, because I advocate that during a diet. You do want to cycle your calories up and down to make sure you're not shutting your metabolism down. But second of all, what I would do is that I would put a high carbohydrate day on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then see what I look like on Thursday, and then see what I look like on Friday, and then see what I look like on Saturday. And whichever day I look best at, I would start to schedule my carb ups based on that, right? So I would try to time my carb ups so that Saturday was the best day. So for instance, I started carbing up on Thursdays. That was my high carb day. And Friday was my high carb day. And then Saturday I'd look like crap. And then Monday I would look great. So then I said, okay, well, I guess I need to carb up on Wednesday instead, right? Or take a day back or 2 days back. So anyway, long story short, on Tuesday and Wednesday, I would carb up like crazy. I would eat tons and tons of carbs. Then Thursday, I would eat just enough carbs to maintain the fullness. And then Friday, I would make sure that I wasn't taking in that much carbs, except for I would take in carbs through fruit, such as a little bit of blueberries or apples, but I would not carb up on any more starch on Friday. And then on Saturday, I would have a little bit of blueberries in the morning and some protein to maintain fullness, but I would not touch anything that might cause me to retain water. That was me, okay? So what I was doing with my water was I was drinking 1.5 gallons of water every single day. And then on Friday night at about 5 o'clock, I would quit drinking water altogether and I would just sip just a tiny bit of water. And then my body would just start expelling water. So I'd automatically drop water by the time Saturday came. Now, the reason why it's so important to take in a lot of water is that when you're taking in carbohydrates, you need water in order to be able to carb up. If you don't have the water, you won't be able to carbohydrate. You won't be able to hydrate your system with carbs. You won't be able to bring in those carbs. So you need to make sure that you have water. So I was drinking plenty of water. And obviously too, if you drink plenty of water, you will have less water retention because your body will know that it doesn't need to retain it because it's already taking in a ton of water. Your body will not have to retain the water. It won't feel that it needs to be like a camel, right? You know, camels have humps for a reason, right? They're going to be in the desert for weeks on time without water. So that's why they develop the humps. You don't want the humps because the humps will make you look like you're retaining water. So I drink a lot of water right up until the show. But the last week for sure, I would really, you know, load up the water on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday I would back off in the afternoon. Now I would take some potassium on Friday, and just a tiny bit. If you take too much, you'll cramp up, but a tiny bit of potassium to help pull that water in the muscle cells. And I would also cut salt out totally by the time Friday came along. You know, and a little bit of Thursday, I would start cutting it back. I would cut back salt on Thursday and then I would totally cut it out on Friday. That's basically what I would do for my contest regimen, right? So I would be eating turkey breast for the meat. I'd have a little bit of a higher fat food maybe on Friday as well, because that helps sustain the carbohydrate fullness in the body, and it would help me be a little bit more vascular if I had a little bit of fat. Okay, so as long as I wasn't taking in too much carbs, a tiny bit of fat would help push that muscle up closer to the skin and actually make it look a little bit more lean on stage as well. So I'd do that, but mostly what I would stick to is turkey breast and fish, a little bit of fish. I would have some of that as well. But I would try to make sure that whatever choice I made with protein were the choices that weren't making me retain water. So I'd do all the testing ahead of time. You know, the whole 6 weeks before, I'd be like, okay, should I be eating tuna? Should I be eating tilapia? Should I be eating chicken breast, turkey breast, steak? So of course I'd do these experiments, and then from there I'd be able to say, okay, now this last week it's going to be a very boring diet, but this is what I'm going to stick to. So a lot of times I'd be having a lot of vinegar for my dressing. You know, I'd just be putting vinegar on my chicken breast or on my steak, and I'd be having a lot of asparagus, because asparagus also helps you expel water as well, and greens of course are not really a lot of carbs in there, so it's actually a pretty safe carbohydrate source. I didn't retain any water from any sort of greens at all, so I'd have as much greens as I wanted as well. So yeah, that's basically what I would do. Mainly the last week is just about understanding where the carbohydrates need to come in and when to take them in. The when is so important, because if you take them in too close, sometimes you can retain water. I know a lot of guys that have ruined bodybuilding shows because the Friday night they're trying to carb up and then they're taking in water at the same time, and then the body's responding to those carbs in a certain way. So they look unbelievable, then all of a sudden the body starts filling up and they, you know, totally look like they're fatter on stage. So a lot of times people will make this mistake because they're not in shape, right? They're not in shape by the time Friday comes along, and then they try to make up for it somehow, thinking there's going to be a magic cure from changing the diet. And every time I've seen somebody do this, every single time, they've destroyed their show. It never seems to work out. So you have to make sure that you're in shape already. As a natural bodybuilder, it's a totally different game than the other bodybuilders, okay? As a natural bodybuilder, no miracle is going to come along and all of a sudden make you look like you're 5% body fat as opposed to 10%. If you're 10% body fat, trust me, that's as good as you're going to look on stage. It's not going to change unless, of course, you're looking like you're 10%, but you're not really 10% because you're retaining water because you had the carbs at the wrong time, right? What I'd do if I was a person get ready for a show is do this experiment. Carb up on a day or two, just eat as much carbs as you want, whatever carb source that you're using, like whether it's potatoes, yams, you know, some people protein bars even. I mean, I'm not advocating that, but you know, it has worked for me in the past at certain times. But the bottom line is that carb up and then see what you look like on the Thursday. What do you look like on the Friday when you go back to the moderately low carb or medium carb or whatever diet you're doing to lose body fat. Then see how long it takes you to look full and ripped, your best for that week. And it might take a day, 2 days, 3 days, and then from there you can hone in your final week of your diet and then make the decisions of what you're going to do with your diet based on this experiment. All right, so I hope this helps you out. Get ready for a contest if you are planning on getting ready for one. And thanks a lot for watching, and take care for now. Share my stuff.